Here's the Marlin 795 stock I'm working on. At the moment, I've got a dial indicator here that's holding force down on this 2.5 millimeter jack that I installed into the bottom of the stock here, and it's flush with the outside surface of the stock. And the purpose of the jack is to hook up a trigger activation switch. This is the plug that would go in there. It's a 90 degree, and it would plug in the bottom and run along the back and go into sit in behind the trigger to activate the laser when you want to use it in the shooting practice simulator mode. Up here is the actual laser. It's installed and epoxied in, and this is the momentary push button thumb activated switch for when you want to activate the laser when you're firing bullets with it. This is the wiring. I'm going to have to address that once I get everything put in. This is the battery holder that I'm using. It's a standard AA holder, but the battery in it is a lithium-ion 3.6 volt battery. These are not rechargeable. I might change my mind later and go to a rechargeable and hook up and actually make a charge port on the stock somewhere. But for now, I'm just using non-rechargeable batteries. I found this Dremel tool here very handy to cut out the ridge inside the stock. There's about a 10 millimeter high spine that goes all the way from the back to the front. And I've had to remove that in a few places for the battery and the laser and the jack. And so wherever I'm doing that, I'm going back and putting in epoxy to beef it up to retain the rigidity. Hey, I finished installing the laser in this Marlin 795. You can see I stuck a laser module in the front of the stock here. And in an earlier video, I showed how I zeroed that to the point of impact of the bullets. And there's also a switch here, you can see. That's how you activate the laser. You just squeeze it with your thumb slightly. And you can see that it's worked out pretty good. It doesn't stick out over the stock. It's maybe down a 0.5 millimeter. And there's also another thing I added here. There's a 2.5 millimeter jack right there. That is another way to activate the laser. And that's activated with this. This is a 2.5 millimeter plug, goes into there. And on the other end of the wire is a tactile switch that slips in behind the trigger. And so when you squeeze the trigger, it clicks and gives you a momentary burst from the laser. And so I'm going to be using that when I'm using the gun for practicing with my laser simulator system. There's a bunch of videos on that if you want to check that out. And I did videos on making this halo sight for the 2-gun rimfire competitions. And then also I did a video on replacing this front sight to true glow here. So I've done a few mods to the gun, and I think I'm about done. I've also made this shroud here to protect the halo. It goes on there like that. It's a 3D printed piece of plastic held in there with a magnet. And I hope you enjoyed watching the videos. One thing I did learn, I learned a few things, but one thing I'm going to take with me is I had to figure out a way to lock the stock down so I could temporarily fix it in place and remove the barrel and leave the stock exactly where it was so I could install the laser and zero it to the point of impact of the bullets. So I ended up using a hot melt glue gun. I put a big dollop of glue right here on this piece of wood that's clamped down to the station. And I basically glued the front of the gun down with the hot melt glue. And I also glued the whole workstation down to my tile floor because I didn't want any movement at all. And those things work great. The laser is exactly dead on. And when I got done working and I wanted to free the gun from its vices, and I just popped the piece of wood off, and it came right off, and the glue released and didn't leave any mark or debris or residue of any kind. And the same thing for the floor. It's a tile floor, so I wasn't that worried about the hot melt glue. I wouldn't do it with a wooden floor or a linoleum or anything like that. It wouldn't work. But since it's tile, no problem. It popped right off, didn't leave any marks or anything. And so, pretty good tip if you want to temporarily tie something down while you're working on it. I'd never done that before. I've never glued a gun down with hot melt glue, but I might do it again now that I know. I don't think I probably wouldn't do it with wood, but since this is plastic, I wasn't that worried about it. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the videos. Here's a close-up view of the laser mounted in the front of the stock and the pressure activation switch mounted there on the side. Here's a close-up view of the laser and the pressure activation switch mounted in the stock.